Show your invitation.
Dear Father, living in uncertain times, you are a certain God. Seeing turmoil all around us, you are the peace within us. And though the future may seem dim, you are the light that illuminates our path forward. Make us one nation under God. May we remember the high cost that was paid to live in one nation, a nation under God. May we not be fractured by politics or pettiness, but stand together as an indivisible people, ready to face the challenges of our future. May we graciously live within the freedom and liberty endowed to us by our Creator. And may we seek justice for all, no matter their race, color, or creed. Make us one nation under God. Though imperfect, let us become a more perfect union. Sometimes divided, let us learn to live indivisibly. And at times ungrateful, let we the people be grateful for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In you, God, we trust to heal the wounds of our past. Give us strength to endure the trials of today and provide guidance to live together in a more peaceful tomorrow. Make us one nation under God. May your word direct us, your promises keep us, your power protect us, and your purpose restore us. May our courage propel us, love define us, humility constrain us, and faith unite us. Make us one nation under God. Father, we are blessed beyond measure, thankful beyond words, and hopeful beyond imagination. Make us one nation under God. One nation under God.
Thank you, Father. Would you please stand for the flag salute? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I call the regular council meeting to order. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carried 5-0. Public forum, which is limited to agenda items only. Anyone wish to speak to the council regarding those? There being none, we'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second? Grab a second.
Second.
All those, do we have any, questions or concerns about the consent agenda in the council? There being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. And item number 6, ordinance 1468, modifications to the sterile malt beverage licensing. Tiffany?
Yes, ordinance 1468 is just a slight change, to the CND procedures, CND license application procedures. What it is section 3-205, which is the license application procedures. In there, currently it states that the city clerk's office shall provide copies of any applications received to the police department, fire department, and the city county health department for inspection and background checks to be completed. The county health department does not do that kind of inspection, and so we are just eliminating the county health department out of there. So the fire department will still do their inspection, and the police department will still complete the background check.
Any questions from the council? There being none, I entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 1468, which is an ordinance amending section 3-205 of the City of Marion Code pertaining to cereal malt beverage license application procedures.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion by the council? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Number 7, USB 408 tool support payment request. Roger?
Okay, before you this evening is the invoice for the first half of the year requesting the payment for the pool operating budget. And we had brought this to council a month ago. Council referred it back for additional information regarding why payroll increases. Mr. Homburg and I still have not met in person. We did send the explanation to the mayor and I that states during the lockdown due to the COVID, USD 408 paid all our employees. We did not want to hurt any of our employees during the pandemic. This is why we paid them during the time. The district has received some COVID relief monies, but none of those monies were used to pay salaries. The slight rise in administrative costs was due, that is when our assistant manager began working, so it would reflect payments to 2 people for administration rather than 1. Okay, and then they concluded with, we value the relationship with the city and appreciate all you guys do for the city of Marion. It's still the recommendation of your administration that we modify this request for payment. When the pandemic started, I had made a request to Mr. Homburg, could we work together on what could we do to control costs during the shutdown period. The decision to pay their employees, the first time that we were aware of this decision was when we received the invoice. It wasn't until the explanation just received in the last month that we were made aware they had hired an assistant. So those 2 charges, it's our belief, the agreement is that we jointly operate and communicate on what decisions are. This is a case where we are being requested to pay additional portion without any input on those decisions. But it is the council's determination if we pay the requested 17,000 or adjust it back to 14,977.51, which would take out the payroll for the time that the pool was closed and the additional administrative salary. The 14,977.51 is very much in line what we've traditionally supported this operation with. The request for the 17 is much larger. Part of it's because revenues are down. The pool was closed. So I respectfully ask for direction of council, and which way would you like us to pay this invoice?
I have a couple of questions. When was the assistant hired? You know the date?
That information has not been disclosed. I have found out in a follow-up conversation that the current pool manager will be out on a medical leave in the future, and they decided to hire someone. But I don't have the date.
Does Barbara know? Do you know anything about what went on?
I mean, I wanna say, like, beginning of summer, but I don't know that for sure.
Okay, okay.
How many months is school closed?
9 weeks.
And does this $4,000 reflect the 9 weeks that they were closed?
Yes,
Okay.
included in the payroll requests that they're making during that period.
Was there another letter about some other assistance that they got? I know the one they said they got, they didn't use for payroll, but was there another letter about some other assistance they received? Or was I? No?
Now, they have shared no details on the COVID relief.
So we don't know if they got any PPP money?
They are not disclosing that, sir.
Almost everybody did. At least everyone who applied, and that had to be used for salary.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
this is the way I feel about it. I still think the two superintendents need to talk. And if we don't go along with this, they're gonna bite us some other place. Maybe rec, I don't know, things like that. We gotta remember that. That's all I'm saying.
Haven't they already did us?
Yeah.
As far as rec goes, without,
Yeah,
you read
What's the-
further.
I assume we're working under an interlocal agreement with them, is that correct? As far as the pool, what we contribute to the operation of the pool?
It is a letter of cooperation from 2007, I believe, is the date of that.
That expired?
It had no termination date defined or an effective through date. So this agreement is continued, since 2007, basically is a gentleman's agreement that the superintendent of schools and the city administrator would work together on operating and marketing of the pool portion of that facility, and that the city then would participate in support payments for half of any amount lost, or if they can operate at a profit, we would then receive half of the profits generated. I know of no municipal pool that's ever operated at a profit.
I was just gonna ask that, have you ever had a profit off that pool?
No.
Okay.
And when we own the outdoor pool, there's no record of a profit being generated from that.
I'm having a problem hiring the assistant, since the pool was shut down and we're in this pandemic. Why should we have to pay for that?
It was open though through the summer, and they had a swim team, didn't they, a local one, Margot? Yeah,
Yeah,
Yes,
But
but this
when-
invoice
we don't
reflects,
even know when the director went on maternity leave, when that happened.
no.
Well, I agree with what Jerry's saying, you know. They're not contacting us and letting us have any input whatsoever about that pool, and we're paying 50% of the cost, less the revenue that they bring in, correct?
Correct.
And then bring any revenue in for 9 weeks, you know that.
Correct.
So, what's the council thinking? Rather send him another email and say, we're gonna tell you this, or,
I say pay a reduced amount.
I'm with Chris and let them contest it if they want to. Or pay the reduced amount and see where they stand then.
the amount is $14,977.51, is that correct?
That's correct.
Entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those, any further discussion regarding
Yes,
that? Okay.
yes. I don't know, I'm kind of with Jerry in some ways, but I mean, I don't know, I know Roger's made several attempts to try and discuss this with them, but if we say we will pay the full amount, but in the future, if we're not consulted, that we will start cutting the funds for the expenses if we're not consulted or don't know what's going on, I don't know. Do we need to give them a warning that we're not going to pay the full amount without having been
And that's,
consulted?
that's a good point. I think we can leave the door open. Roger can say, this is the amount we're gonna pay you now, if you want the balance of it, you need to meet with me and convince myself and this council that we should pay this additional $4,488.22.
I'm okay with
I
that.
mean, the door's always open, they can come back, but the problem is we can't communicate with them,
I know.
you know? So,
I got another question.
Sure.
This math doesn't seem to add up. 17,000, 14,000 isn't $4,000 difference. What's-
Right, the $4,000 difference is the total payroll expenditure during the time the pool was closed. And we're obligated by the gentleman's agreement that we've been operating under to reimburse half of that. So all we're doing is reducing our half
Okay, I wasn't getting that. So
for the net
so
payroll.
our half would be would be $2,000.
22.4.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not,
2244.11.
okay.
that's not knocking very much off.
Then I get that changed.
Yep. And I would encourage you to let him know if he wants to discuss this with you, he needs to come to your office and sit down with you if he wants the additional funds.
Shouldn't the letter be sent to the school board rather than the superintendent?
Could be. I mean, he could send, Roger could certainly send a letter to the entire school board and I'd send it to Mr. Holmberg and CC the school board. That'd be acceptable, Roger?
I didn't catch the last of it. I heard. from
Well, her
Mr.
question
Holmberg.
was to send a letter to the school board. I would send a letter to Mr. Holmberg and CC the school board. Would you agree with that?
Additional.
In his role, he has the discretion of what's shared with his board and what's not.
So why not send a separate letter to the board?
At
Because
your
we don't
instruction,
know
I'll
that
accomplish
they're
whatever you want.
knowing what's going on and why we aren't being consulted. Is that correct, as far as we know? Yeah, I know,
Any answer will be an assumption.
He's not communicating, that's the problem.
yeah.
Okay, any further questions? Have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carried 4-1. Police policy manual approval, Chief Jeffrey.
Just asking for approval on the policy manual you guys had 2 weeks ago. I didn't receive any questions from anybody, so I assume everything looked okay.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question on that. I didn't have a chance to review it before I came tonight, but when it came out last week, I did, and I'm a little bit concerned about the body cam, when they turn that on. Can you explain that to me?
As far as you have questions as to when they have to, or when they don't have to, or
Well, when they should turn it on.
it's basically anytime there is an interaction with a citizen that can turn confrontational, or there could be witness statements involved in it. There's several categories that fit that
Okay,
criteria.
so if they stopped a car and was getting out of the patrol car,
Yes.
they would turn it on?
On a traffic
right
stop,
now?
yes, that's part of
Okay,
it.
I'm
Yep.
okay with that, then.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any further questions? The only thing I had would be just a suggestion, Chief Jeffrey, is when I looked at it, I mean, it's pretty difficult if I wanna go to a certain section on that. I know you've got it in alphabetical order.
Sure, yeah, and there will be an index with, if I had to change a policy, I didn't want to put it in one document with page numbers, and then if I bumped everything down a line, now everything's off a page. So it will come out to the guys in an index, and most of them I feel will use a digital copy of it, so everything will be broken down that way, but there will be an index and a complete book
Page
once it's,
numbers on each.
right,
Okay.
right.
All right, that's all I had. Anybody else? Entertain a motion to approve the police policy manual.
So moved.
Second,
Second,
any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Number 9, review of CDBG CV grant for Edwards Cafe. Roger?
Okay. We're here this evening, and I see that Mr. Beneke is present, where he was
Yeah.
a little bit ago. We're here to visit with council. When the initial 10 grants were awarded, this particular grant carried the stipulation that the business needed to reopen. That was affirmed with the grant administrator before it was brought to city council for your approval. You all approved it with, that the business needed to be reopened. Our grant administrator, since the business is not, or was not reopened, we did not produce the check. The grant administrator has done follow-up with the applicant, trying to determine, will the business reopen, or is the grant to be rescinded? The response received, which was after a deadline set by the administrator, simply stated a single day that the business would be open in a month in the future. We need the council to decide, do we issue an economic development grant check to a business that has remained closed? Since Mr. Beneke is here, perhaps he's willing to address this council, share his operating plan, and then council will better be informed as to what we should do with this award. If it does not go to this recipient, our plan was that it would roll into the round 2 funding, and instead of $17,000 for local businesses, this would be part of the, it would then go to 27.
So we're gonna have a second round of these funds that we have available.
That's correct, because on the first round, we had 17,000 that was not awarded,
All right,
okay? And that was to still go to the businesses, and we had 8,000 more to go to the food bank when they were able to produce the receipts.
okay.
Of which they have produced the receipts, and at the next meeting, we'll be requesting a drawdown for those funds.
Mr. Beneke, would you like to address the council this time?
Please come out here.
You need to come up to the microphone, if you would, please.
Does our, maybe Rosemary knows this, can we require that the business be open before we release the funds?
Yes.
Okay.
You step up to the pedestal and
I've had the shits for 2 days. I've been throwing up all afternoon. I'm out of here.
okay.
Where did you come?
It could be. Well, you guys,
Well, I think, I don't know why we would change our course where get open and stay open and then you qualify.
Mr. Mayor, could I speak a moment?
absolutely, come up, Rosemary.
Okay.
Give us some good news.
Is, this grant funding is for businesses that were impacted by COVID, but are planning to become, to reopen and to be an active part of the community. It is not to keep a business from shutting its doors. It is, like I said, it's supposed to be an active part of the community and continue operation. To be open just one day or whatever does not meet the criteria of the grant guidelines. So I just want to reiterate that to council. And if you decide to rescind, I just need to let CDBG know that we're going to reallocate the money to another business, and so that they're aware of that.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Just that
Go
one.
ahead, yeah.
So if Mr. Beneke, if you resend this and the money's put back, but then Mr. Beneke applies a second time and he can show you that he's gonna be open and he's gonna stay open and provides when he needs to, can he qualify then again?
Yes, he could.
Okay.
I mean, he had supplied the information in the original application, and that's why he was included in round 1. But is, information out there we're questioning, and that's why he was asked to appear and to give council what he had planned to do. was he gonna be open for one day, or is he gonna be continuous operating business in the city of Marion?
And I'm just wondering if you'll explain to the council the dates that you gave him and the responses that you got, Rosemary.
Is, if I'm understanding right, how the grant is set up is, it was supposed to be for, okay, see if I can read this without fogging my glasses up. My quick review of Edwards Cafe submitted an application for COVID funding. The council awarded funds to him. We sent him a certificate of contractor on this. That was just to verify that he was going to move forward on it. We were informed by Randy that they were closed, so I emailed him and asked for confirmation. He called me on October the 16th and we discussed the project. Actually, Crystal and I were sitting out here in front of City Hall when he called. We told him that he had to stay open in order to use the funds, otherwise he would have to pay them back. There would be an agreement he would have to sign in order to get his check, and that again would state that he had to use the funds as stated. He said he understood. I contacted him again earlier than last week for his decision. He called me on the morning of October the 27th and said he would reopen on November the 28th. I asked him for a response in writing, and then that's when all the correspondence started in between everyone.
I have a question of you, Rosemary.
Okay?
And this doesn't necessarily specifically on Mr. Becky, but could just be for any of our grant applicants. If they don't use the funds that they're supposed to use the funds for, do they have to pay that back?
Yes. Would you consider that fraud?
It probably could be considered fraud, yeah.
And,
if they refuse to pay that back, what?
well, first and foremost, since the grant came to the city would be on the hook for it. Which
Correct.
then you in turn would probably have to do some type of legal action, whether that is to sue the individual, put liens on his property or whatever, in order to recoup the funds.
Okay.
But it does state in that agreement that they have to use the funds as stated, or it is basically illegal.
Well, I'm thinking way outside the box. If they leave the country and don't come back, are we on the hook for the $10,000?
Yes, you
for
are.
them? So that would have to come out of taxpayers' money.
Correct?
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, these people that are receiving these grants, do they have to bring in receipts for the money that they're receiving?
Well, that's a
Yes.
question.
That's what we've been doing is, Crystal has met with each one of these businesses and they have supplied the information in order for us to even determine whether or not you should award a grant